When was the last time you took a leap of faith, trusting that everything is going to work out? Do you crave growth, or are you merely content with the status quo? If you want more out of your life, out of your career, and out of your relationships, you are in the right place. Take the leap and discover how to create a life by design rather than living it by default. Real success starts with you. Now here's your host, Colleen Biggs.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Take the Leap. I am your host, as always, Colleen Biggs, and we have a return visit of a previous podcast guest that we've had many years ago on our podcast. I think she was actually on the other podcast, Lead Up for Women, Speak Up to Lead Up as well. So we're so happy to welcome back Melissa Deely, who's going to be with us today. And I tell everyone she's my health coach, that it was from the beginning and working with her in my detox and her helping me understand why my health is my wealth. And I thought I was an extremely healthy person and worked out and ate healthy. And I had a long way to go to really understand fully how the body functions, from mind, spirit, energy, all of that. It's more than just food and lifting some weights. And so it's been a great journey with Melissa. She's back, and we're going to dive in a little bit deeper because she has added more modalities to what she does to support her clients. And I can't wait to dive into that because I want all of you to understand why. It's so important to take care of yourself. And I haven't been sick in a long time. And I used to pretty much every year around the same time in February-ish, I would get a cough and get sick, and didn't get it this year because I've had a lot of things change in my life. And so all of that is gone. No metal, I don't have any of that in my body anymore. And I've also been working on a lot of my traumas, which has really helped with a lot of the things that I was struggling with. And we'll get into that later. But before we do, I want to thank our sponsor of today's show, Phoenix Drone Pros. So at Phoenix Drone Pros, we love what we do and are passionate about each and every drone photography and video shoot. We've been in business since 2015. Our talent and skills show in the video production we deliver. We offer fast service for commercial real estate, movies, events, and construction site monitoring. We also provide drone virtual tours and training that are all the rage right now. These virtual tours are great for team building and entertainment. You can contact us today to schedule your event or shoot at phoenixdronepros.com, or you can contact us for the opportunity to buy your own business, become an entrepreneur, and fly a drone for a living and make money from it. It's so amazing. So thank you, Phoenix Drone Pros, for being the sponsor of today's show. Okay, let's talk about Melissa Deely, who's coming to us out of British Columbia, Canada. Melissa is an integrative mind and body health practitioner and accomplished trainer in NLP, timeline therapy, and hypnotherapy, and is passionate about helping you feel and look your very best. Leveraging the precision of functional medicine labs delivered to your doorstep, she unravels the root cause of health issues and skillfully guides your healing journey. What sets Melissa apart is her authentic and compassionate approach. She listens, collaborates, and empowers, explains the why behind each step. She's a trailblazer, and she supports other coaches in their transformative journeys, training them in these powerful modalities. She's also the host of the impactful Don't Wait for Your Wake Up Call podcast. And she's the co-founder of Girls Matter, a foundation dedicated to keeping girls in school in Uganda and Kenya, breaking the poverty cycle, one girl, one family, one village at a time. Melissa, welcome to today's show.
Thank you for having me, Colleen. It's
the next question everyone wants to know is this: when do you sleep? Do you get that a lot?
I do. And the funny thing is I love my sleep, and I really prioritize my sleep.
Me too. That's what I say. I said, I sleep a lot and really good, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we let's just start with that, because some of the people are like, wow, you do so much and you've got your hands in so much, but you prioritize your sleep and your health. So let's just start there.
Well, and it's one of those things where, the pillars of your health, sometimes people ask me, well, what's most important? Is it nutrition? Is it sleep? Is it exercise? Is it? And it's really hard to put your finger on just one thing. However, there's a few critical pieces, and sleep is definitely one of them. And
Mhm.
so often people, they just get busy and they got one more thing to get done. And then before they know it, their sleep is squeezed out because it's not prioritized. Whereas my sleep is prioritized, it's in my calendar. I know what time I'm going to bed, and I know that I want to be getting at least 7 hours of sleep every night, somewhere between that 7 to 8 hour window, because I know all of the benefit that I'm getting
Mhm.
in terms of my body's ability to restore, to detox, my mitochondria to recharge, and it allows me to be more stress resilient each day when I'm getting good sleep.
Mhm.
Ensuring that my gut health is optimized, because when we're not getting enough sleep, we're breaking down good bacteria in our gut, and that causes imbalance in our gut.
Yeah.
And our gut is the core of all of our health. Hippocrates said it thousands of years ago. All dis-ease starts in the gut. I
Mhm.
like to say all health starts in the gut.
Mhm.
And
I
so,
just learned the other day that we deposit memories when we sleep. Someone said, "Did you know you
yes.
deposit memories when you sleep?" I was like, "I'm sure I did, but that's the first time I've actually heard anybody say it out loud." And
And
so
say it
people that
in
have,
those words. Yeah.
yeah, people that have that disrupted sleep and aren't sleeping very well, that's a big factor of dementia
Yeah.
as they age.
Absolutely. Yes,
Hmm.
because that's exactly what our brain is doing during the
Yeah.
night, aside from detoxing and everything else that it's doing.
Yeah.
It is laying down those memories and moving things into our short-term memory and then into our long-term memory. And I think of it as like a filing cabinet inside our head,
It is.
All of our memories are filed without judgment as
Yeah.
well. And
Yeah.
that's a key piece that I use as well in the work that I do working with the unconscious mind and helping people in their,
Hmm.
releasing stuff down emotions and releasing trauma and releasing limiting beliefs using timeline therapy. We're working with the unconscious mind and its ability to recall everything. You may not consciously recall it.
Mm-mm.
If you trust in your unconscious mind, that memory has been filed and it's there.
Hmm.
We don't need you to rehash the experience of the trauma or the rage or the shame or whatever it is that we're releasing from your body, because it's getting stored. The unconscious mind is in the whole body. It's not just in our head.
Hmm.
These memories are
Well,
so
it's what's operating when we sleep. Like our
exactly.
subconscious is like keeping us alive in the background. It's like, when your phone says, "Do you want this app to run in the background?"
Yes.
That's what your
That's all.
unconscious mind is doing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Your
Keeping
subconscious.
you
Yeah.
alive without you even thinking about it.
Thinking. Hmm.
Right. And so we
So
can release
powerful.
this from the body without having to talk about it, because the unconscious mind already knows what happened.
Hmm.
And we just need the lesson from it, because the reality is that everything is happening for us, even though in the
Hmm.
moment it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like it. And the question to ask in the moment is, what am I supposed to learn here? Because when we have the learning, we can
Yeah.
move through it more easily to the other side. And when we don't get the learning, that's when we're stuffing it down, or we're resisting all of it, and we hold that in our body. So
Yeah.
using timeline therapy, we can go back, because the unconscious mind knows, and ask for the learning and get that learning. And then that allows the stuffed down emotion, the trauma, to be released. And it's very gentle, very easy, without having to rehash it all. Because rehashing it is triggering it. You're living through the trauma again every time you
Hmm.
talk through it.
Yeah. Yeah, no. And lately I've been through a lot of that. And I do believe that our subconscious mind also keeps us safe. There's times when things have happened when we were younger and we didn't know that those things happened as an adult. And, when you look back and you're like, there's parts of my childhood I just don't remember like anything. And then when it comes up, you don't have to rehash or go through it. But once you figure out, like, oh, my subconscious mind was literally knows it happened. I've stored it in my body, but it was protecting me at the time because it was too much of an overload for me to process as a child. So I
Absolutely.
needed to find out about that as an adult. But I will tell you, The issues are in the tissues because it was a lot of pain that I had to release. So even when you're saying like I have lower back pain or I have hip pain or for me, I was getting this kind of annual cold thing that would come up, this coughing cold. Well, I had an immense amount of metal, we know from taking the blood test. But then on top of that, I do believe that there was also a whole nother factor on the other side of being silenced for so many years and not speaking up. And when I went through releasing all that trauma, that was a lot. And it's like, oh, I just let all that roll off my back. You thought you did, but we didn't. And a lot of times we're like, I don't have time to deal with this right now. So I just need to move on. I don't have time to deal with this right now. So we suppress a lot. And I'm here to say we don't realize how much we suppress.
Right.
Until someone helps you, like you, where you can draw that out of them. And then I just don't think people realize how much they've packed in their body.
They don't until symptoms come up. And those symptoms are there speaking to them saying, pay attention, right? And pain is also saying, pay attention. It's not to be ignored, it's not to be masked with Tylenol and Advil, et cetera, et cetera. It's there for a reason to get you to do something differently. And so, yes, that's why I don't just work with the physical body in terms of, yes, I do the detoxes. Yes, we do lab tests and we get a lot of information and it's a really great starting point.
Women, you get a lot of information in your hormones. I'm just going to say, a lot of them will say, oh, I know my hormones are whacked out. I'm like, are they? Do you know? Do you know what the levels are? Like, if you're not getting blood tests, how do you know what to do? Like internally, we can see the outside, right? You get a cut, you put a Band-Aid on it, maybe some triple antibiotic, whatever to heal it quicker. But on the inside, you've got to have those tests.
Exactly, because it gives you those numbers and then you know where you're at. And then we know exactly what to do to help bring your body back into balance so those symptoms will go away. We don't have to accept hormonal imbalances just the way it is, and the PMS and the insomnia and the mood swings and the night sweats and the hot flashes and all of that. Those are all symptoms that you don't have to live through and tolerate. It simply means your hormones are out of balance and we can bring them back into balance, and that's great. And that's the physical body. If we don't then also go, okay, what's going on in the emotional body? What's going on in the mental body? What's going on in the spiritual body? If we don't look at all the other bodies, what happens is the physical body is healing itself. However, over time, we're going to have more symptoms come up as the emotional body goes, hello, you didn't look after me.
I still have a lot I haven't dealt with over here.
Because by the time the symptoms show up in the physical body, they've already moved through the spiritual, the mental, and the emotional body. So when we clear it, we clear the physical body, and then we want to clear the emotional and the mental and the spiritual body as well. And that's why I jokingly call myself the friendly toxin slayer, because I'm clearing the toxins or toxicity at each level. And sometimes people ask me, well, what's spiritual toxicity? And that's more to me the misalignment. Like, why are you really here? Why are you here on earth? What are you here to learn? What's your mission? What are you here to do? And are you in alignment with that? And people will, get to a certain point in their life where they're like, maybe I'm not in alignment with that. And that's when we need to help bring that alignment back into place.
Melissa, you're the only person that I've ever heard say this. And they say, we need to hear it from a specific person, but you're the only person I've ever heard say, getting old is a state of mind. You don't need to get old. And I was like, well, because I always believed that they're like, when you get old, you got to go through menopause. Yes, as women, we have to go through menopause. And my husband and someone else was laughing about this the other day. I was like, men don't have to go through. They have one thing in their life that happens, puberty, and that's it. They're done. Women, from the time we're like 12 to the time we're like 80, it just never stops, right? It's just in there forever. But when you said that to me, I was like, well, I just figured like collagen loss, gravity takes over, all of these things. You get old, you get wrinkles, it's just what happens, right? It's just what I'm dealt. That's what happens. Life is happening to me. right? And I don't have that state of mind and haven't had that state of mind in, decades. But I still saw getting old as just part of the process. I walked into a restaurant yesterday, Melissa, and it said 20% off for 55 plus seniors. And I'm like, I'm 2 years away from turning 55, and I am not a senior. Holy crap. My husband's 62, and I'm like, do you feel like a senior? He's like, not even close. So I feel like that's a misconception again, like culture and society kind of blast that out there. Like I got an AARP application the day I turned 50. They're like, the minute you hit 50, you're dying. That's what they think. Like you're old, you're dying. And you and I are like, are you kidding me? I got
I'm
so much
halfway.
life
Yeah,
left. I'm half.
exactly. I'm
What I
halfway.
do with the second half of my life, I am so excited for because I'm in the best health I've ever been,
Yeah,
ever,
with
because
so
I
much
pay attention.
wisdom of everything that has
Yeah.
gotten to where you're at now.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of this. And you're right, societally, and especially in Western cultures, society has taught us, you go to school, you go to college, you work hard for 40 years, you retire, and then, once you're retired, well, that's when you're old and,
You
that's it,
expire.
right? Exactly. And sadly, in North America right now, the average North American is spending the last 10 years of their life in a nursing home. And that's not quality of
Mm-mm.
life. Once you go in, you don't come out. To me, that's waiting to die, and that's tragic. And that's hugely expensive as well at $108,000 a year right now. And by 2030, it's forecast to be $141,000 a year. So
That's
essentially
crazy.
$1.41 million for your
Mm.
last 10 years of life. And that isn't even your medical expenses. That's just the room and board and the privilege of being cared for there.
Yeah.
And then your medical expenses are whatever is required for you. So it's massively expensive. And I would much rather, you know, educate people, which is what I do through my podcast and my work, and how to be proactive in their health, to
Yeah.
invest in your health now, because it doesn't take that much. We're
Mm-mm.
just not taught how to do it.
Mm-mm.
But invest in your health now so that you can live a life, a long life of
Mm-hmm.
vitality and being able to move and have your brain capacity right to the end, because that is entirely possible.
Mm-hmm.
And it is my mission for me and anybody who wants to join me on the path. And I know you're joining me on the path.
Oh,
And
yeah.
my grandmother is the person that I'm following. She lived in her own home by herself until she died in her sleep 2 weeks past her 101st birthday. She
Oh,
was fully cognitively functioning and able to
beautiful.
care for herself. And when she died, we were sad. And yet there was a piece of me that was like, I'm celebrating a life well lived.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And we can actually all have that.
Mm-hmm.
However, it does take some effort up front.
Yeah.
And we can't just be reliant. I'm not going to do anything about my health. I'm going to, when I get sick,
That's
go to
where I think people are
the
lazy. Can I just
Oh,
say that, Melissa? Like,
it is.
I'm not trying to call anybody out, but if you're listening to this, when I tell people I do detoxes. So for 3 years with Melissa, it's probably longer than that. I started the first detox and it's 3 weeks long. And then you just do it every quarter. She would just have groups and we do it every quarter. If you're an alumni,
For
you can
1
come
week.
back and participate. And I would do it for 1 week every quarter. And then I got on the wave of the water fast. And I was like, okay, I really love these water fasts and all that it does and what it creates in your body. So it does all the same stuff as the detox of the autophagy and resetting the gut and all of that. And then as you go a little bit longer past that, 48 hours, 36, you start creating stem cells. And there's some other benefits that your body can actually heal itself because it doesn't have to digest. It's always digesting. And that's like a proven fact. So I got
Yes.
into those and doing more of those. Do you know, Melissa, every person I talk to about, they're like, that's not healthy. That's dangerous. I'm like, have you ever read anything about a water fast? Because they're like, you can't go that long without water. And I said,
I'm drinking
I'm
water.
only drinking water. I'm not eating. And yes, by the way, you can live for 2 weeks without food. You can live for 3 days without water, but you can only live like an hour without oxygen or something or whatever, however many minutes it is without
Even more.
oxygen. So, yeah. So
So
your body can go a
I
very
would
long
say
time.
it is dangerous for someone who hasn't done any detoxing of any shape or
Oh,
form
yeah.
to go straight to a water fast. However, you did the detoxes for
Oh my
3 years
gosh, girl.
before you progress.
Yeah.
Like there's
And
stages.
juice cleanses before I met you. Like
Exactly.
I've always worked on somehow my body, but I just never went to the depth that I went to till I met you. That was when it was like, okay, I got a better understanding of what was going on in the inside of my body. And that was the missing piece.
Mhm.
Here's the other little trick I'm going to share with everybody. When you go to the doctor and they take your blood and they just look, they're looking to see if something is so out of whack. Then the averages are different. You want to talk a little bit about that? Because I've known a lot of people that go to the doctor and are like, oh, my blood tests are good. Well, what did they tell you?
Yes.
Like, what did they come back?
And my own doctor has done this as well.
Yeah,
It's the labs that I do are functional medicine labs. There's some blood, there's some saliva, there's some urine. They're different to what your doctor has. And I believe the more information we all have about our body,
correct.
the better off we are because we know what we can be doing to bring our body into balance, which is all it wants. And when it's in balance, it doesn't get sick, it doesn't hold on to excess weight, it doesn't have
Mm-hmm.
disease. Our doctors are their ranges are in order to diagnose you with something. So they're looking for dis-ease.
Mm-hmm.
My labs are looking for imbalance. When we find the imbalances earlier on, it takes much less effort in order to bring the body back into balance. I'm not a doctor. I don't diagnose you with any disease.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for imbalances in order to help the body come back into balance. And the ranges that I work with are looking for optimal health. So there are different ranges. And wouldn't you rather know where you're at relative to optimal health versus
Mm-hmm.
relative to disease? Like relative to optimal health is so much more positive.
Yeah. You're good. You don't have a disease yet. Oh, get close. But yeah, no,
And
I
we're
get
not going to
exactly what
do
you're
anything
saying.
until you have the disease. So there's
Yeah.
no intervention to show you how the path you're on might
Yeah.
be leading you down there if you don't make some lifestyle changes. And let's face it, we lived in a stressed out world and everybody's in do, do, do mode. And there's 3 major factors that are triggers for chronic illness. And that is high stress,
Mm-hmm.
high toxic load, and low nutrient absorption and
Yeah.
uptake. And that's partially due to our nutrient depleted soil systems, as well as the food industry, which is also full of chemicals and sugar and low nutrients.
Yeah.
And so those are the triggers for chronic illness. Well, if we start to address those and we help you detox your body and we help ensure that you're getting nutrient dense meals and we help you address the stress, you're not going to get the diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you don't want the diagnosis. However, working with your doctor, they don't give you any of the education because they don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
They're just looking at your numbers going, you're fine, come back in a year. And then in a year, oh, you're not fine now, here's the drug.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
And
think
boy, you
that's
have
the
to take it
thing.
for the rest of your life.
Yeah. The goal is to not continue treating the symptoms. And that's just something that is just so popular. Just taking a pill and then you got to take another pill because the side effects of that pill. And then you got to take another pill because the side effects of the next pill. And I've worked with pharmacists and you work with pharmacists, like, you know, the drill, right? How long have you been doing this, Melissa? And why did you start doing this? Why? Where did it come from? I know your why.
Yeah, so I've been doing this now, I can't believe it, already 9 years.
Yeah.
And I keep adding to my designations because I love the work and I'm curious and I want to learn more and be able to help more people. And my why is I was guided into this through my daughter's health journey. So I first got let go from the corporate world and given an hour to clear out my desk after 24 years of service. And in that moment, I knew that I wasn't going to work for someone else again. I knew that I wanted to take control and be responsible for my income source. And I knew that I wanted to do something that was of more service to the planet and humanity. And I knew
Mm-hmm.
that I had no idea what it was going to be. So I was open to being guided. And I was guided first to a supplement company that specialized in brain health supplementation. And I thought, well, this is fascinating because I know I use my brain 24/7, like we were talking about at the beginning of this call. And yet nobody's ever told me that I can do more to support the health of my brain. And I want to be like my grandmother. I don't want to be another Alzheimer's statistic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started learning about this and learning about the importance of helping our brain and our body detox. And I had my oldest daughter, who was in grade 12 at the time, start using this supplement to support her in school with her focus and her concentration. And about 4 months after finding this company, she sustained a concussion in her first grade 12 soccer game of the season.
Mm.
And I wasn't working full time. And so I started going to all of her appointments with her so that I could learn. And also because I knew she didn't have the ability to go to an hour-long appointment and come home and tell me what they told her. She
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't retain all of that with a concussion. And 2 months after that, I was driving to Vancouver and I got a phone call from the high school to please go pick up my younger daughter who had a suspected concussion from grade 8 gym class.
Mm.
And that was the moment where I was looked out of the heavens and went, what? This is how you show me my path? Stop taking out my children.
Yeah.
And so now I have two very different concussions in the house. I'm going to both sets of appointments with them. And the great news is they both fully recovered between the nutritional component that I was bringing to it and the work we were doing. We did some Reiki, we did physiotherapy, we did craniosacral, we did all sorts of things because there's more than one way to heal.
There is.
And in that process, I was asked to work at a holistic health clinic that was opening to support other people who were recovering from concussions. And I wanted to do that because I saw the need. And yet I couldn't get insurance to work there because I didn't have any certification. So that's when I decided it was time to go back to school. And that's when I started my first health coaching certification. And then from there, I learned about the lab testing and went, wow, this is amazing for people to actually know what's going on inside their body, to have real science that shows that.
Yeah.
And be able to write wellness protocols for people to let them know, okay, what are the steps that you can take to rebalance your body?
Yeah.
And then from there, when I realized, okay, it's not just about the physical body. There's more. We have to address the emotional body. We have to address the mental body, the spiritual body. That's when I studied NLP, timeline therapy, hypnotherapy, and NLP results coaching and fell in love with all of those modalities. So then I've gone on to become a trainer because I can have greater impact by training other coaches in these modalities so they can help their clients get results more quickly through using the power of our unconscious mind. That's 90% of our mind.
It is.
Most coaching is conscious coaching, and you're working with someone's willpower to create habit change. And that's only 10% of your mind. And it's not enough. 70% of people have fallen off New Year's resolutions in the first 17 days of the year. It doesn't work. But when we work with the unconscious mind, the other 90%, there's so much more available to us to create lasting change with ease and grace. And so that's why I love these tools.
I love that you've been so curious all of these months to just continue learning and learning and learning and serving and serving. And then on top of that, you're also the co-founder of Girls Matter. And when did that start?
That started back in 2013. I've been a Girl Guide leader, and you call them Girl Scouts in the US, for 21 years now. My oldest daughter is about to turn 26. And I took the girls to see a documentary called Girls Rising back in 2013. And it was the story of all of these girls around the world who were being denied the right to an education for no other reason than that they were female. And I watched that with tears coming down my face as I sat in a room with 20 girls who I knew every single one of them, my two daughters were there, and myself included, had faked being sick at some point in order to avoid going to school. And we complained about having to go to school at some point in our lives because we all took school for granted. It was a place we had to go. And yet halfway around the world, there were all these girls desperate to go to school and being told they couldn't because they were a girl. And I just felt in that moment, A, I needed to do something. And B, education should be a right for every citizen and not a privilege. And I knew I needed to do something, but I had no idea what. or how? And so that just ruminated in the back of my head. And then once I was let go and I started, my business, my personal growth journey, I was attending different conferences. I attended a conference and the speaker said, we are all put on this earth for 3 reasons: to find our passion, be of service, and never stop learning. And that resonated very deeply with me. And then he said, and you don't have to know how, you just need to know your why. And I was like, okay, I know my why. And I realized in that moment, all I had to do was start talking to other people and telling people what I wanted to do and how I wanted to support the girls. And so I called friends of mine who were the only people I knew that had a nonprofit in British Columbia. And I said, I want to start a nonprofit. Can you teach me how? And they said, what do you want to do? And I told them. And they said, we love it. We'll do it with you. And you know what? Let's piggyback it on the nonprofit we already have, because they had a nonprofit that was daycares and preschools for children aged 3 to 5 to start learning to read and their alphabet letters and their numbers, so that when they got into the very full elementary schools in Uganda, in Kenya, in Nepal, they could hold their own. Because there was too many kids finishing elementary school that were illiterate because they just kind of slipped through the cracks in these overcrowded classrooms. And so just like that, we literally launched the next month because they already had staff on the ground that were able to support us as well. And so since that was January 2017. So since January 2017, we've now supported, I've actually lost count of the number of girls through high school, but we now have 4 university graduates, and we have a lady who went through vocational school and she has become a seamstress.
Oh,
She
nice.
made all the little grad gowns this past year for the preschoolers. So they all now have grad gowns when they finish preschool and they go on to elementary school. And of course, those can be tucked away and saved and reused next year. We've also just commissioned her. We bought her a sewing machine on a loan so she can start a business. And we've commissioned her to be making 1 new dress for every girl in the village between now and the end of the year. And we're funding that because these girls don't have clothes. The village is asking us to send clothes over.
Yeah.
And I could easily get clothes to send over. The problem is they would never still get to the girls, because they would get to the customs officers who would open it up and see clothes from North America, and they would just take them and sell them themselves.
Yeah.
So the only way for us to get the girls clothing is for it to be made there. And it's a beautiful way to support our new graduate in building her business by commissioning her. So we're helping girls finish high school. We're helping girls finish university. We're helping girls with menstrual supplies because they don't have those. And if they have them,
they can't go to school.
3 months. And then now we're doing microfinance loans for our graduates to get them launched in a business if that's the direction that they're wanting to go.
It's so
And
great.
I love this work because we're not just changing lives for today. We're changing lives for the future, because an educated mom is more than twice as likely to ensure that her own children are educated.
1,000%.
Generation effect.
Yeah.
And literally, when we educate the other half of the population, the girls, we can bring countries out of poverty because it raises the GDP.
Yeah.
And that's what stuck with me from that first documentary. It said that if India could educate just 1% more girls, they'd grow their GDP by $5.5 billion.
My hope is that you're going to see another documentary in 5 years that shows all the changes that have been made and the mass differences that have happened today since 2013.
Yes. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
There's a book I read recently, if anybody truly wants to understand what is happening in our world today. And this was written, I think, in 2008. It's still current today. It's called Half the Sky. The name comes from the fact that women should hold up half the sky. It's talking about the reality that many girls and women face in our world today. And it's a difficult read. However, it's also a beautiful read because in every case, it shows how the girl or woman overcame
Hmm.
their situation. And
Absolutely.
every time they overcame it because they had access to some level of education or
Yeah,
support by other women who had access to some level of education.
for sure. And I think here in America, you're in Canada, but I know here in America, like you said, even in Canada, faked sick or didn't want to go to school and take it for granted. Same here in America. You know, it's no different than that. And there are girls and women that we know aren't able to go to school, aren't able to graduate. They're being sold off, you know, to get married at very early ages. Because if you're not in school, then you just need to become a wife. You
Right.
know.
And families, they have, 4, 6, 8 children.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, they can no longer afford to feed all of them and pay for them to go to school because school
Mm-hmm.
costs money there.
Yep.
And so, therefore, they're just like, well, we can't afford to pay for you to go to school. And at school, they get fed.
Mm-hmm.
So, if they're not at school now, the parents have to pay for them at the dinner table. Well, that doesn't work either. And so, with the girls, that's when they marry them off. Because
Mm-hmm.
we can't afford you, you go there. Now you're someone else's problem.
Yeah.
They have to feed you.
And they wind up living in poverty, and we know how that goes.
Exactly. The cycle just continues.
Yeah.
It is tragic.
Yeah, it is very tragic. So thank you for all the work that you're doing with Girls Matter. I think it's an amazing foundation, and we will have information for that foundation as well for each one of you. If you want to find out how you can get more involved at breaking the poverty cycle for girls in Uganda and Kenya. Please click on that link. And then, Melissa, what is the best way for someone listening today to connect with you?
My email is simply melissa@yourguidedhealthjourney.com, or my website is yourguidedhealthjourney.com. And there's a book button. You can book a discovery call if you're interested in having a
Perfect.
conversation about your health goals. Or there's also a form there that you can just reach out to me as well. And I want to say thank you to you, Colleen, because you were instrumental in us at Girls Matter starting to work in Kenya, because
Mm,
you introduced me to Lynette, who has now
yeah,
sadly passed. However, her husband and her son continue their work, and we're working to support the girls in the slums in a certain area of Nairobi and helping them stay in school. And that's
I
been a
love
beautiful
that.
partnership with the Jolly Sisters that you connected me with. So thank
Wonderful. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. And for all of you out there that might be listening to today's episode and thinking to yourself, well, I feel pretty healthy because that was me, right? I feel pretty healthy. And there's so much more knowledge that you can learn. There's so much more to discover. And it's not just working out and eating healthy food, because I had a friend that was working out and eating healthy food and they just died one day out on a run from a brain aneurysm. So I'm just here to tell you that just because you think that eating healthy or working out or doing those things are great, you got to really understand what's going on inside your body. And I want you to really think about spiritually, mentally. There's so much more than the physical. And I like it because it's becoming a little bit more mainstream, Melissa. More people are talking about it because more individuals are realizing, like, yes, that is a big thing for me and I need that. So if you're feeling anything physically or mood wise or whatever it may be, just reach out to Melissa. It's worth the conversation to understand where you're at. And if you want to get involved in Girls Matter, we'll have that link below as well. So, Melissa, thank you so much for being here today. You're always a welcome guest. Please come back more and more and more and more. You educate us every time on something new.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I absolutely will. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to remind all of you out there, as I do every single episode, you're the only you that's ever been. You are the only you that will ever be. And just like Melissa's grandmother, who lived and peacefully died in her sleep at 101, you too can live a full, integrative, active, cognitive life. It doesn't have to be lived where you just wake up and you're just kind of living to die one day, because you have no purpose and people have to take care of you and you have to be in a nursing home or whatever it is. That doesn't have to be your life. It doesn't. You can be healthy and feel young and vibrant and spry is the word I like to use. And when they paint 55 plus seniors get a 20% discount, I get pissed. I don't want a 20% discount because I'm not a senior, and nor do I look like a senior, nor do I act like a senior. And I don't want to act old. I don't even know what that is, but it's cute when you talk to your grandkids and you're like, they're old. And I was like, old, like one of our grandkids last night, I said, old, like Papa and I old. Yeah. Old like that. And I was like, okay, he's only 9, but it was so cute because when we're 9, we think they're old. But when you're in your 50s, you're like, I'm really young, by the way. I feel like I'm in my 20s or 30s. So, and then I'm smarter now than I was in my 20s or 30s. So it's really the best time of our life, right?
And I say 60 is the new 40.
It
right?
is.
And, by the
For
time I get to
sure.
70, I'll probably say 70 is the new
Yeah.
40.
Oh, I know 7-year-olds today where I'm like, are you kidding me? You're crushing it. I
Yeah,
meet so many women that are at that age. So we can stay young, and your health is your wealth. That's what we talked about today. Please reach out to Melissa. Melissa, thank you for being a guest on today's show. And to all of you, until next time, don't forget, be you and be strong. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of self-discovery, where you learned the tools to create a life by design. Remember, you are the only you there is, and you are the only you that will ever be. Be you and be strong, because you are brilliant, and the world needs you at your best. We cannot wait for you to join us again next time.